Hi everyone, it's me Arden Lee, and in this video I want to discuss what you can do if you find yourself changing so rapidly that you're outgrowing a lot of the people around you in your social circles, even including people who you've known a long time who you hold very dear. This question comes from one of the members of the Repatterning Parlor, which, by the way, if you haven't yet joined us there, go ahead and check out the description box for this video because I have a link to the group, and we'd love to see you there so we can offer you additional support and you can come in and join us. We have all the fun. So I want to answer this question today because, first of all, I want to validate that this is a very real phenomenon. I want to validate the fact that there can be grief along with healing. In fact, I would say that grief is naturally a part of healing because we're letting go of a lot of old stories, old patterns, old beliefs, and old attachments. And in order to do that, we need to grieve the reasons that we held on to them in the first place. We need to feel all the things that happened to us, understand how those patterns were set, hopefully, and release them so we can move on. So we may have this phenomenon happening where we're happier than we've ever been before in our lives. We're more hopeful, we're more optimistic, we finally feel good when we think about our futures. And yet we can experience at the same time this really deep and profound sadness because there will be a lot of people around us who will no longer mesh with us because they don't carry the same beliefs and the same attitudes. I want to say also, you guys, that this doesn't have to be a forever problem. When you're on your path of healing and specifically you're repatterning your beliefs, it's important to keep around you people who share the same beliefs that you want to have, right? Because you're repatterning, you're reinstalling. And as you're anchoring those in, I find it's a pretty delicate time, and that people who share your past beliefs, being around them can feel kind of triggering in the same way that, say, someone who decides to become sober feels, maybe being around people who are drinking. So there is this period of incubation where we really do need to curate a specific social circle around us full of people who are going to be supportive of our new ways of being and who share our newly undertaken beliefs and attitudes. But I want to also say something else, which is that once we fully anchored into that place that we want to be, you don't look at like the people who are super happy and super enlightened and see them being really judgy of other people, right? If anything, they become ideally strong enough in their boundaries that they can actually sometimes still be friends with those people and just acknowledge that they're just in very different places. They can still love them and they can still be supportive of them without feeling like their own energy is going to be threatened by the other people's, own outdated patterns and habits. It's not always easy to maintain those friendships because if someone is in that energy where they're crossing boundaries or they're behaving in ways that are inappropriate or are harmful, then that's not always easy. But I'll just put this out there, we do reach a place of peace, ideally, where we can still see those people and love those people and maintain our boundaries, and it doesn't have to feel so harsh as when we are initially discerning away from them in order to protect our energy. So that's a bit of optimism that I'm just going to throw in there, is that a couple of years from right now, you may be able to have those people in your life, invite them to parties or whatever, and you're just going to manage your expectations of them. And they'll either choose to get better on their own, maybe you'll even inspire them to begin their own journey at some point, or they won't, and you'll just kind of know what you can expect, and you won't have to really feel one way or another about it necessarily. But in the meantime, if you're feeling like you're changing so rapidly that you're losing everyone and you're not sure what to do, I just want to say that this is normal, first of all. In fact, about half of the module of week 6 of the repatterning project is dedicated to pretty much this phenomenon and the circumstances that sort of surround it when it happens to people who are on a healing path. Basically, what I teach in that module is I teach people how to be prepared for the sort of revolving door of friendships that starts happening, and the fact that they start losing a lot of people from their history, and that also a lot of people will be triggered by their growth and will also sometimes try to put them into a weird narrative where they're the bad guy or they're the villain, right? I've had people ask me before, about, what to do if, like, oh, my, all of a sudden my friends think that I'm, one of the things that I say a lot is, in the same way that equality looks like oppression when what you're used to is privilege, right? In that same way, our personal growth and trauma healing can look like betrayal when what you're used to is trauma bonding, right? Someone who's in a trauma bond with you may interpret your growth and your getting out of that situation or of those beliefs as a betrayal to your bond. Hey, I thought we hated men together, right? I thought we both, felt this way about things. I thought, who are you? I don't even recognize you anymore. It becomes this thing that people who are invested in that trauma bond take personally, and it's hard. It is hard. And there will also be a space of emptiness that will be really confronting for us to deal with. I call it the void sometimes. I refer to it as the void whenever I'm speaking about that space of emptiness that is between the thing that we are now discerning away from and the thing that we are calling in that has not arrived yet, because there is generally a lag time in our manifestations, and the void is where we're tested. The void says, can you deal with this emptiness? Trusting with blind faith that the thing that you're intending will come to you? Or are you going to give up and go back to your old ways? You're going to go back to your old patterns. So that's true of a lot of things, but it's certainly true of friendships as well. It's true of things like our work. It's true of our romantic relationships. It's true of, but it's true especially of our social circles, right? And for a while, we may have these intrusive thoughts come up of, well, if I'm losing everyone, and keep in mind, you guys, like when I did this, I didn't have a me telling me about this. I had a coach, who's amazing at what she does, and I also had like some social media accounts that I followed, but I didn't have someone who is explaining this process to me in the way that I'm now articulating it, in the way this is not something that I understood for myself going in. So all of a sudden I was like, am I just an asshole? Like, wow, I'm losing everyone. So that's why there's a part of Module 6 in the repatterning project that's a checklist that we go through called, are you having spiritual growth or are you just being an asshole, right? Because what happens is when we heal, when we work through our stuff, it naturally requires a strong degree of self-focus. And that's not selfishness. We're going in internally and we're working on ourselves so that we can emerge and serve our community again. But it means that we have to be focused on the way that our bodies are feeling, because we're deepening our dialogue with ourselves so that we can learn discernment, so we can zoom in on what our needs truly are, and so we can practice putting a voice to those things and setting our boundaries and creating a life that makes us happy. This takes energy, this takes bandwidth. All of a sudden, we're not running around people pleasing everyone anymore because A, we're trying to stop people pleasing, and B, we need that energy for ourselves. And that is the point, right? That is the process of healing. So the people who were benefiting before from your people pleasing, from your fawn responses, from your your lack of boundaries, they may have some words for you when all of a sudden you call that energy back to yourself. All of a sudden, what, you're not just going to let me step all over you again? Or all of a sudden you're not, constantly thinking of me and my needs, or you're not reading my mind in terms of what my wants are? You expect me to use my words? This happens, you guys. I lost friends during that time who never even told me what was wrong. Or some others who made up some really weird story that made me into the bad guy that I really didn't resonate with whatsoever and wasn't even affecting them. Weird things like, well, I can't be around you because of my spiritual beliefs. I think you're doing something weird, or your magic is what, I don't know. It was just, there was just a lot of weird stuff that happened where I was just like, I'm not sure. Whatever is happening, it's whatever I'm choosing that's triggering for you is not affecting you directly. So I'm not sure why you have a problem with it. And nor is it causing harm. These are about choices that I'm making for myself and the way that I'm choosing to pursue my personal growth and the way that I'm choosing to reflect and to heal, right? So that's hard. And if you're someone who is accustomed to being a people pleaser, it's going to be a natural reaction for you to take it personally, or to at least reflect and say, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I doing something, again, am I having spiritual growth, or am I being an asshole? So like I said, there's an entire half of a module dedicated to this in the course of the repatterning project. So it's it's very real. And I also really encourage you guys who are facing this, like, please come and join us, and please come and do the course and get the support from others who are doing the same thing, right? That's why this container is so powerful, is because you are surrounded by people who are all working on incorporating those same beliefs, and you're getting that social support at the same time that you're learning the material. That's why it's such a lightning path, is because it's amplified by everyone in the container doing the work and witnessing and sharing. So all of that is to say that the courage needed to be in the void is very real. And the courage needed to self-examine and to say, are there areas in which I'm maybe being too selfish? Are there areas in which maybe I've been like blowing off my friends, right? Maybe I need more time for myself, or I don't align with what they're doing anymore, but maybe instead of canceling my plans with integrity, I've been flaking on them, right? That's why we have that, I have that whole checklist about, how do you do this and draw that boundary so that you're in your integrity and you're not, you're not just being a flake, or you're not, turning a blind eye to the impact that you're having on other people around you, right? That's why it's helpful to have that, so that we know that we're in our integrity. And we also trust that the kind of relationships that we're forging are with people who are going to speak up if they want us to make a change. I surround myself with friends who I really trust. If I did something that made them feel bad, that they would tell me, and we would have a mature adult conversation around that. That was not the case necessarily with the people that I was friends with when I began my journey, because some people ditched out without ever really giving a good explanation. And maybe it's just drifting apart, maybe it's whatever, it is what it is. I'm not really worried about it, but I feel confident now that if I do something that upsets someone, that they're going to take personal responsibility for their communication of that to me, so that I can adjust my behavior if we decide that that's what's called for in the situation. So in the meantime, while you're in the void, that's the testing ground, right? So what do? You be strong. You understand that there is lag time. And in my experience, you lean into the edges of your social circles where you think there is more potential. You start to look at the people that you know and the people around you, and you start to look at the people who have the sort of happiness and success that you want to emulate for yourself. And you just start directing your focus more towards the people who you want to be vibing with. And you look at your resources and you say, who am I really enjoying spending time with right now? And how can I give my energy and foster those new relationships so that I can trust, so that I'm giving a chance for the connections that need to reach me, right? Because it's also possible for us to isolate a lot. Actually, I wanted to speak on that too. I wanted to speak on this concept of the void again, because it's kind of scary. And that isolation, as I said, during that phase can sometimes feel like, am I just losing all my friends because I'm an asshole, right? But this sort of incubation period is very normal for healing. Very normal for things like spiritual awakening, dealing with trauma, and repatterning. And I don't think we should look at it as a bad thing. The fact that we're creating more quiet so that we can listen to our bodies, so that we can read the books that we want to read, so that we can expose ourselves to the knowledge that we're going to need to go forward. You know, a lot of my time healing and repatterning was spent, reading and researching, because that happened to be the way that I attempted this path. For you, it might be different, right? It might be about spending time meditating, spending time outside in nature, spending time doing playful physical activity that gets you in your body, right? Whatever it is, there's a reason that space is being created. And it's so that you have that space to let go of the things that you used to depend on to fill that void. The void is not always a comfortable place to be, but it's a very healthy place to be. And the moment you really trust and surrender to it is the moment that it flowers. And all of a sudden there's these new opportunities around you that you didn't see before. So I don't want us to be afraid of it either, even though it feels confronting to be in isolation. I'd love for us to be able to use that isolation. I mean, think about living in late capitalism, you guys, and how much of us just want some time off, right? That's the flip side of losing a lot of our social circles, or losing, the people that we may have depended on before. Is we do need that space and that quiet. It's nice to have sometimes in this age. So overall, understand that this is normal. Know what your boundaries are. As you're losing people, understand that you may have to discern from them in a somewhat harsh and defensive manner at first to protect your own energy from slipping back, but send those people love. And remember that as you progress and as you anchor those new beliefs in more securely, you'll be able to love them even more freely. And don't fear the void. And in the meantime, when you do feel called to be social, put your energy into the edges of your social circle where you see the most potential for the kind of people that you want to call into your life. And that's about how you deal with that. And come sign up for the Repatterning Project, and we'll absolutely support you through that process too. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video.